Well, the name of the game in OEM integration is all about a customer comes into the shop, they want to upgrade their radio. The last thing they want to hear is what they're going to lose. All we got to focus on is what they're going to gain. One company that has done an incredible job providing solutions to our dealers is Maestro. Automotive Data Solutions has created a protocol for manufacturers to be able to integrate aftermarket radios without losing features, if not enhancing. Today on Connected, we've got their product specialist, Matt Yerger, joining us, and we're going to talk about exactly why Maestro may just be the most reliable and compatible system and solution in the market. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Maestro, and it starts now. And we're back, and of course, with me now is our man, Matt Yerger from Maestro. Matt, welcome to Connected. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You know, you are a guy that I see on the show circuit that always sells out the trainings, and I think a lot of it has to do with just how important Maestro has become in the ecosystem of installations, right? When Maestro came onto the scene, I remember back in the day, I didn't even know what it was. Like, I didn't understand, like many, what Maestro did. Like, what was the point of it in the very early stages? And we're going to walk through that a little bit. But I want to go through a list of items and questions that I've kind of compiled to ask you, because I have you here to really clarify, Maestro's stance on being that ultimate integrator and being that go-to solution for dealers. So one of the things I wanted to start with, Matt, is, OEM features are not getting easier to integrate into. Things are being complex. There's different systems and platforms from different manufacturers. How exactly does Maestro keep up with all these new vehicles that are coming into the marketplace to stay relevant?
Yeah, I mean, if you really go back to when the RR came out, the initial purpose of it was to retain sync, right? So there was a problem when sync came out. We had you couldn't replace the radio and retain your sync system. And for that reason, a lot of customers just didn't swap the radio out. So we set out with the goal of providing a radio replacement solution that would retain sync and allow it to work on the aftermarket radio. And that's really always been our goal, is to seamlessly integrate all of these features. And yes, cars are getting more and more complicated, but we continue to innovate and work at retaining those features.
And retaining features, like I said in the intro, is the name of the game, right? The customer comes in. There's multiple reasons why customers today might want to upgrade the radio. You and I are kind of the same age. We go back in the day. Our reason for changing the radio is we wanted better sound. And that was kind of like the driving source or goal behind changing radios. But these days, a lot of it has to do with the interface, the size of the screen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, many different reasons. But the one thing that we can all agree on is no customer wants to lose OEM features. And this is where I think Maestro really plays such a critical role. However, as you just mentioned, moving landscape, new vehicles being introduced all the time, that's an engineering challenge. So this kind of leads into my next question. And some of the comments that we get, Maestro is a fantastic solution. We love it. The modular system, the flashing, all that good stuff. But man, why does it take so long for them to come up with new applications? So I'm going to ask you, why is Maestro always seem to be the last guy to the table or, for a solution?
Yeah, I mean, we have an amazing team of engineers and R&D that, look at cars and say, this is the next solution that we're going to make. But it is a monumental amount of work to backwards engineer those vehicles and create that solution. But as far as, time frame, we definitely are not going to be the company that just pushes a solution out. We're never going to say, oh, it's good enough, right? We're going to take that extra time to say, how do we retain this 360 camera? Or how do we integrate the secondary display in the gauge cluster? Our goal always, from day one, the message with Maestro is, how do we retain the most amount of factory features while upgrading your radio? And we do a ton of validation. So before the solution is released to the public, we test, we retest, we test, we retest. So, that takes time. And unfortunately, yes, it may take us longer than most, but I think everybody would agree our solutions work, and they work because we make sure they're 100% before they launch.
You know what? Slow and steady wins the race. There's a value and there's a timeline when it comes to reliability. And I think that's the message here. I'll be the first to say it, and it's hard to disagree. Maestro might not be the first to market with a solution, but once you actually decide we're ready and this is it, track record speaks for itself. So we'll keep it at that. Having said that, we're talking about factory retention of factory features, right? From a dealer perspective, talking to a customer, not every dealer has been able to install every scenario, right? Combination radio and module, right, into every type of vehicle. How confident can a dealer be in promising their customer that they will retain all their factory features?
I mean, obviously not every single car we retain every feature, but if you use our fit guide, we tell you these are the features that we retain. And if there's something really important that maybe we cannot retain, a good example of that is Volkswagen. We do not retain the 360 camera, and there's very good reasons for that. And it's not saying that we won't retain it in the future, but we make sure to call it out on the fit guide. So, from a dealer point of view, the only thing I can emphasize is make sure you check the fit guide fully and know, okay, if there's specific features that the customer is like, I need to retain these, we will usually list them out on the fit guide.
Okay, so you're making reference to a fit guide. I'm hoping anybody who's ever played with a Maestro RR unit knows what this fit guide is. But for the record, we're here. Walk us through the most efficient and best method to look up vehicle coverage, especially for these new sales guys on the floor. They're talking to the customer. The last thing they're nervous. They don't want to overpromise. What is the best method for them to get this information proper?
Well, the best method is always going to be to go to idatalinkmaestro.com and just go through the prompts. And I know the questions we ask can be lengthy, but we ask all those questions for a reason, right? We need to know not only the vehicle that it's being installed to, but we also need to know the trim. We need to know the radio so that we can properly display all of the features you will add or retain, because some radios offer more features than others. But we do also have I guess you could say, a more efficient way to do a product and feature lookup. And you can access that by going to our support tab in the menu in the top right corner of our website and go to product and feature lookup. This will give you a more streamlined fit guide experience, I guess you could say, in that it's just going to ask you the year, make, and model and the radio. And then once that's entered, it will list all of the features that potentially could be add or retained. But again, it's important to enter the correct radio, because again, some radios offer more features than other. And I've had some dealers say, oh, well, I entered this vehicle and this radio in, and it said it retained this feature, and then come to find out they put a different radio in. So, that's why we have the main fit guide on our website. But if you're looking for something that's going to speed up the process, you're just seeing maybe if just the vehicle is supported, period, you can go to the product and feature lookup section under our support tab.
So just for the record, if a vehicle is not listed in said fit guide, is there like a secret firmware or some combination, or this is black and white?
There is no secret firmware.
Okay, there's always a secret firmware, Matt. There's always a secret firmware.
If it's not in the fit guide, it is not compatible. And that's not saying we do offer some beta testing. If you have a vehicle personally that you would like to test, maybe a new firmware that we're going to be releasing in the next 6 months. But aside from that, no, there is no secret firmware.
Okay. I can go different directions here, but before we go to the break, you mentioned, entering the right information for the right radio. And I think that's important because, like, if I rewind a couple of years ago, there are maybe 4 or 5 partner radio brands that supported Maestro protocol.
Yeah.
But now here we are in 2026, and I think was it 10, 11 brands now. So let's just walk through that real quick. We know obviously the history with you guys in Kenwood, right? That was the first radio to have that protocol.
Yep.
And then Alpine, Pioneer, of course, JVC, part of the Kenwood family, and Sony. These are kind of like the big five, right? So we know, and again, just to be clear, I'm not saying every radio has compatibility, certain models within each one, that's another conversation, but these five top manufacturers have models which are ready to go for Maestro RR. However, in the last 2 years, I'd say, there's been another bunch of manufacturers that have hopped onto this whole solution with Maestro, and I want to call those out, and some of them are interesting. Harley Davidson, who knew that radio replacement in Harley Davidsons would be such a big thing? And you guys have partnered with the brand to provide a solution with Maestro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Soundstream approached us about making a solution. They were building a radio specifically for Harley Davidson, and they wanted to use our integration to allow that to work. And obviously, we do all the same things that we do in a car. We add gauges, tire pressure monitoring. We show what gear position you're in. And so, it takes that level of integration to the next level. And it's been a very successful solution, I think, for both Soundstream and for us as well.
Amazing. And great for shops that are already, used to the process, right? With Maestro, just on another vehicle. I'm sure it was cool at head office when they said, "Oh, we're doing motorcycles now." Next thing you know, a motorcycle rolls in for the first time and have to, re-engineer this thing. Okay. Other partners I want to highlight here. And this was interesting because I feel that this was a maneuver to really expand the accessibility of Maestro compatibility to a wider range of audience, perhaps at a lower price point. I'm specifically calling out your new partnerships with brands like Boss Audio, Boss Elite, Jensen, and Dual. Your comments?
Yeah, I mean, the Maestro compatibility, the entry level Maestro compatibility was around, I think, $350 for a very long time. And as we start to get further and further along, the older cars where you could get away without doing a radio replacement module are very few and far between anymore. You almost have to have a radio replacement interface, and there obviously are a lot of solutions that we offer that no one else does, that you have to use a Maestro in. And so I think Boss and Jensen recognized that and looked at it as an opportunity to be able to not only sell more radios for them, but provide a lower price point Maestro compatible solution.
Again, lower price point, more opportunities for sales for our dealers, and more options for consumers, which is great. This next one I thought was also interesting. In a world where let's say the source unit landscape is changing a little bit, Android started becoming a thing, right? And we all know there's a million Android solutions on Amazon and stuff like that. But one brand that's really focused on using the Android platform while producing application-specific solutions is Vinland Atoto. And that's also a new partnership I want you to talk about.
Yeah, so Atoto is going to be like their direct consumer brand, and then Vinland is the retailer-based product. But I think what Vinland did differently than every other Android-based radio out there, because obviously there's a million of them. If you type in F-150 radio, you get a ton of endless choices. And the problem is a lot of them, and any retailer will probably agree with me here, is the integration, right? For those companies in China to validate a Ford F-150 is very difficult. They don't have that car there in front of them to validate. And so Vinland's approach was a little differently. They said, we're going to make an Android-based radio that's vehicle specific, but rather than do the integration ourselves, we're going to go to a trusted, reliable, radio replacement interface manufacturer. And they approached us. And so they have a lot of really cool solutions. Again, these are vehicle specific, T-style radios, direct fit radios. And they have a lot of solutions that include the Maestro RR and the T-harness in the box.
Amazing, amazing. Speaking about in the box, well, two more. The other new one I want to mention real quick, Modus, new brand in the game. They have a kind of a unique high-end modular kind of big screen solution, which is also going to be Maestro compatible. And then the last one is an up-and-comer that if you guys haven't heard about yet, First Tech is coming to the market with a unique source unit solution. But this, what makes it unique, man, I think you're going to share with us right now, has something to do with Maestro.
Yeah. So, Modus is an awesome radio. I've had a chance to play with it in my car, and I will say they spared no expense in building that radio. We took it apart and looked at it. I mean, they really went above and beyond. It sounds amazing. It's got a beautiful screen on it. They've actually added some additional Maestro screens for some off-road vehicles. So, I'm pretty impressed with what they've done with that radio. And then as far as First Tech goes, they are going to be the first universal radio with a Maestro RR built in. So they took it's actually an RR2 that's built in. And so for installation, all you need is a T-harness. It just connects directly to the back of the radio. So no more stuff in a module in the dash and then a radio on top of that. It just makes the whole installation a lot more seamless.
Amazing. Well, thanks for breaking that up. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. I got 2-3 more questions to wrap this up. So a quick word from our sponsor, Sirius XM, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Paul with Sirius XM here. And with 3 easy steps, you can maximize your business. Number 1, make sure you have the current promotional material up. Understand the offer? Make sure your team knows it. 2, have a unit on display. Set the presets to different genres so you can recommend and play the music that your customer listens to. And number 3, think about this. Most vehicles you're replacing the head unit with already has a Sirius XM tuner in it. So adding it just requires an antenna adapter, a Sirius XM tuner. It's a 30-second install and you're done. So there it is, guys. 3 easy steps to maximize every sale this season with Sirius XM.
All right, thanks for tuning in. Of course, we're here with our good friend Matt Yerger, representing Automotive Data Solutions. We're talking Maestro today and OEM integration. Matt, thank you for walking us through this rapid-fire question setup that I have for you and the breakout of all these partnerships that you have with different radio manufacturers. I have a couple questions I want to bring back. That these are questions that are coming to us from dealers. So one question I have for you is, why doesn't Maestro RR work with some of these older vehicles?
Yes. So that's a question we get a lot. Why can't I do gauges on my, 2001 Honda Civic? And the answer is simple. It's a CAN bus interface and it works on high-speed CAN. So if the vehicle doesn't have high-speed CAN, it is not compatible, which really is about 2005, 2007 and newer.
Okay, there you go. There you go, guys. That's why.
It's a simple one.
Simple one. All right. How about this one? We got a lot of dealers that specialize in more exotic applications, maybe European applications. When will solutions be available for said applications?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's one we get a lot of questions about, but we kind of look at when we make new solutions, what are we going to have the most impact with, right? And, a lot of those older Mercedes and BMW vehicles, the amount of work it would take to build that solution would be monumental for probably not a huge return. I do understand having a full coverage is important to be able to offer solutions for everything. But again, I'm not saying that they're never going to happen. It's just they're not on the timeline right at the moment.
Okay. Not so long ago, Matt, I remember we did a video on this, and it was when you brought up the Mic 1. So for those of you that don't know what it is, just real quick, Matt, what does it do? And is it a necessary accessory to include into my quote?
Yeah, so the Mic 1 is the first interface of its kind. I know others have tried. Is a interface to retain the factory microphone. It allows you to, or it essentially is tuning the factory microphone, allowing it to connect to any of our partner radios. So obviously the benefits there are it looks much nicer, right? Your factory microphone's going to look way better than anything an aftermarket radio is going to offer. And then installation is so much easier. You're just literally connecting it at the T-harness and done. So you're not running that mic cable up to the headliner. But as far as do you need it? Obviously, no, you don't. It is an optional accessory because pretty much every radio manufacturer has a Bluetooth mic included in the box. And it's going to work just fine. But if you're looking for that cleaner look, or just to increase installation time or decrease installation time, I should say, the Mic 1 is a great solution.
Another quick fire question here, or a rapid fire question. What is the difference between an RR1 and an RR2?
Yeah, so there's a couple features difference. So number one, the reason we made the RR2 was because we needed to have a third CAN channel, and the original RR only has two. And so we knew we had to build a new module because some cars at the time had 3 CAN networks on it: Subaru, Hyundai, Kia. And so we needed to make a new module to support those vehicles. But while we did that, we also said, what else can we add to this? So a few things. Number one is it supports escort radar integration. So if you're installing one of their CI platforms or the Redline dash mount, you can connect it to the RR2, and it will give you everything information-wise and control on the touchscreen of the radio. It also has 3 programmable outputs. Now, these programmable outputs kind of work like POCs on a remote start or alarm, allowing you to infinitely configure any aftermarket accessories to trigger on or off using something in the vehicle. So for instance, I could have an accessory light turn on when I switch the vehicle into drive, and then turn off when I switch it back into park. Kenwood offers 3 programmable buttons that you can change the icons on and change the text to control those outputs as well. Nice. So those are the big things. The other thing is it has Bluetooth built in. The benefit of that is that you can flash the RR2 from a mobile device, and really where the benefit is there, not necessarily for initial flashing, but if a customer comes back a week later and they're like, I want to change a steering wheel button, or we've released a new firmware, you don't have to pull the dash part. You can just walk out to the parking lot with your phone, pair it, update the firmware, and they're rocking and rolling. You don't have to take anything out of the car.
Well, there you have it. That's the difference between the RR and RR2. Not that complicated. A couple more features, some outputs or inputs, however you want to look at that, and away you go. And really also vehicle-based. Right, some of the vehicles just don't need the
coverage. Coverage. Well, and when you go to our fit guide, we'll tell you if you need the RR2.
There you go, even better. I saved the last question. It's a big one.
Okay.
All right, here we go. We've gone through so many different features, popular questions that people are wondering about. The success that Maestro has had by building partnerships with so many, like 11, is I think my count, for radio partners. Right. Here's the bottom line, and I wanted to ask you this question last. What do you feel separates Maestro from the competition in this space as far as solutions for aftermarket radio installation?
For me, there's a few. One is reliability. I travel all across the United States and Canada talking to, dealers face to face. And the number one thing I hear is, we sell your product because it works. You're the first radio replacement solution we go to because we know your product works. It's reliable. And so if you make a solution for it, we're going to sell that solution. But more than anything, I would say innovation. We have an amazing team of engineers, R&D, they all think outside the box. How can we add new features? We never settle for, oh, it's good enough, right? We're always looking to change and add new features. What can we do with all of this data we've extracted from this vehicle? How can we make the integration process more seamless and, benefit the customer?
There you have it. Matt, thank you so much for coming in today and talking to us about Maestro. If you want more information on anything Matt's talked about on today's show, make sure you hit up the website at idatalinkmaestro.com. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.